All right, guys, we got this video is about the January 6th insurrection. I just wanted to kind of explain to you guys what happened, and I'll be giving you guys a little bit of a first-hand experience as well. So, yeah, so it's obviously back in the news, so I think, there's a possibility that that they're gonna investigate what happened, but I just kind of wanted to let you guys know, just give you guys a little bit of what I have figured out. So this whole January 6th stuff, a lot of people don't understand what January 6th is, and I'm just going to kind of touch a little bit on just a little quick overview of what it is. So January 6th is certification day. So what it is basically the official, government task to basically, to certify the election. So what happens is the electors from each state come in and they basically submit their results, and so it is an opportunity as well for the electors to, and the senators to basically, open the discussion to talk about possible issues that happened during the election, and possibly not certify the election. So that's what happened. So on that day, that was what was going to happen. And the whole thing with this insurrection stuff, like if you've noticed, like I always say, you have to pay very close attention to what the left says. They're very deliberate, they're very methodical, they're very organized. If you've noticed, they often just keep saying the same thing over and over again, and it's a psychological tactic. It's one of those things where if you say it enough times, the average normie, just basically takes it as fact. And they very specifically chose the word insurrection when they described January 6th and what happened. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys a quick overview of what the whole plot for this insurrection was. So one thing that I can tell you is I've been to a few Trump rallies, and one thing that I noticed is that there's always counter protesters. And as when I got to DC on January 6th, one thing that was very clear, there was no counter protesters. There was a lot of people there, but I can tell you there were a lot of those people, and I have pictures of these people. They were not Trump supporters. They were either Antifa, posing as Trump supporters, or they were government assets in some capacity, and that's coming out now. So what it was all about was they came up with a plan, and I can give you evidence on why I know that it was the plan. Nancy Pelosi had her own film crew there on hand, and they were documenting all of this stuff. So the whole thing was, it was planned. They needed an issue, a substantial issue, so that they could distract from any senators or the electors questioning and submitting and presenting evidence of voter fraud, or just what's the word that I'm trying to look for? Basically, when you run the elections and there was mass problems. Not to say that it was done on purpose, but it was basically to present the evidence and say, hey, there's an issue here, and we need time to look into it. So that was the whole plot. Was they didn't want that opportunity for any of the states, particularly Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin. All of these states had significant issues, whether it was done on purpose or not. So there was a plot, and this was done for many reasons, but the plot was they had to have a big issue, an event that would distract from that. And they basically came up with two possible events. They always have backup plans. So, and here's one thing that it's kind of funny because most people don't even know this. I don't know if you, many of you, realized there was a pipe bomb, two pipe bombs that were, allegedly placed at the DNC and RNC. And the significance of that was it was basically supposed to be a story of, Kamala Harris was at the DNC and that they were trying to assassinate her. So I don't know if you guys remember that story. They have video of the guy and things like that. So that was one story. And then the other story is obviously the insurrection. They talk about overthrowing the government. There was no possibility of overthrowing the government. I've never seen anyone overthrow the government unarmed. And if you go look at the people that were there, I mean, clearly, vast majority of the people were there, basically just there to show, it's basically to protest, to basically show that, hey, there's a lot of people out here, millions of people that think there was a major issue with the election. And, there's plenty of proof. And for anyone who thinks it's kind of crazy, I mean, just look at the totals. Barack Obama, I think, got like 67 or 69 million votes in 2008. I mean, you all remember, at least most of you remember the mass hysteria. He had tremendous support, even from Republicans. So I can't remember if he got 67 or 69 million. That was a tremendous turnout. And then the other, the next is 2012. Obviously, he lost support. He didn't do a good job, so he lost support. So I think he lost at least like 2 million votes. So he was down to either like 67 or 65 million. And then when Hillary Clinton ran, I think she was again around like 65, 67 million. And then magically, on the 2020 election, Joe Biden gets 81 million votes, and he basically wins by very narrow margins. And if you look at it, it's very strategic areas where he got those votes. And then right back to 2024, what happens? Kamala's right back down into that mid 65 million range. The question is where did all of those votes come from? And in some districts, they were having districts voting 105%. It's not possible. Even if it was 100%, not possible. There's so many statistical anomalies that happened that it didn't make sense. And obviously, I mean, if you guys haven't figured it out, it's all about ballots. It was all about the mail-in ballots, and that's where the pandemic came into play. The pandemic was done for multiple reasons, but if you haven't figured it out, we all were had. It was a lie. But they needed those mail-in ballots, and they needed to have a reason to have a significant number of mail-in ballots, because it always comes down to the ballots. Mike Lindell is wrong. It is not about the machines. There's no issue with the machines. It always comes down to the ballots. And when we saw those suitcases being pulled out, they're counting in the middle of the night. There's no judges, no overseers. They're sending people home, and then they're pulling out the suitcases full of ballots. It all came. They were trucking in these ballots into strategic districts and stuff like that. So just getting back to where we were, they wanted this quote unquote insurrection for multiple reasons, and they actually had to have it as a deadly insurrection. They needed to make it deadly. So if you watch the video of the Capitol Police guy who shot Ashley Babbitt, you can see he was ready. He was going to kill her. If you look at it, the gun was already pulled out, and he was going to kill her. They had to at least kill one person. So obviously multiple people got killed that day. From there's one other woman who got beat to death by the police officers, but But one thing that I can tell you is you know, when the atmosphere down there, I have pictures of all of this stuff. The police, they were standing down. They never said they never told anyone to back up. They and that gave me an eerie feeling when I was there. I'm like, something's not right here. So I left very early. I was like, this feels like a setup. And so they had to have agitators. They had to make it where there's violence and destruction and stuff like that. So, but they did it for multiple reasons. The insurrection plot was, I think they wanted the insurrection plot to be the main, narrative. And then obviously if that didn't work, they had to have the pipe bomb story. And then one thing I'll tell you is, have you noticed they've never ever talked about these pipe bombs? In fact, there's hearings. You can look at the back and forth between Benny. There's a guy, Benny, who's in charge of investigating the pipe bombs, and Tom Massey, Representative Tom Massey. He's questioning Benny, and Benny literally does not want to answer any questions. And trust me, if they're not answering questions, they would love to have that story of like, oh my goodness, they almost assassinated the first non-white female, vice president. And if you noticed, that story is gone from the headlines. So, and they don't want to talk about it because they don't need that story anymore. So then coming back to the insurrection, that was for multiple reasons. The top two reasons, actually the top three reasons, is they needed to certify the election as soon as possible, which they did. The other thing is they had to claim it was an insurrection because they were going to use that to impeach Trump and get him out of office, and they wanted to prevent him from ever running again. And that's also why, when that failed, that's why they went and started all these other legal cases against him. The number one goal was they wanted to disqualify him from running for president because he blew them out in 2020, and they knew that he was going to be more powerful come 2024. So they've used lawfare to try to prevent him from being president. And if you noticed, right after it, they impeached him. Obviously, they weren't able to remove him from office, and then they were trying to use that. I still think that that's going to come up to prevent him from taking office in January 6th or January 20th. So as I said, I still do not believe that Trump is going to take office, or if he does, there's going to be mass chaos. They're going to cause some kind of destruction. And then the other thing that they wanted is they wanted to label Trump supporters as basically domestic terrorists. And that's why they put up all of that fencing around the Capitol after. That was all for show. They wanted to make it for the average person who wasn't there and didn't see what was going on. They wanted it to look like it was a huge event. They've been comparing it to 9/11, even worse than 9/11. No, it wasn't. But the Capitol Police were all in on it. I've got pictures. The Capitol Police were standing down. They didn't do anything. They walked by people. They knew what the plan was. They purposely allowed it to happen. And the funny story about it is, it didn't even work out. I think they thought there was going to be more violence. It just goes to show you that Trump supporters are not violent. I will bet you, when you look at a lot of the people who were arrested, look into their cases. The ones that were really causing a lot of problems, they were actually Antifa people. They don't talk about it, but not all the people that were arrested were Trump supporters. And if you look at the cases against people, they're going after people just for walking around outside and just walking around inside. And this happens all the time. They've had it where many times when they have proceedings in the Capitol building that protesters come in and protest. You see Antifa and BLM and all that, they'll go in and start disrupting the proceedings. So none of this was out of the norm. They just wanted to make it a big deal. But that's basically the gist of what basically, you know, what the whole reason for this January 6th. And as I said, they're still not going to let it go. I still think that they're planning to, you know, they're going to use it to prevent him from being certified. But that's the reason. There's multiple reasons, but they wanted to basically prevent him from taking office again. But their number one goal was to certify that election as soon as possible, and they didn't want anyone talking about you know, any of the evidence of what happened. Mike Lindell got it wrong. He's talking about the machines and Dominion and all that. That's not what it is. I highly recommend it if you really do want to find out what happened, how they stole the election. I highly recommend you look up Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's on Rumble. He's fantastic. The guy is very, very smart. He knows exactly what happened. He's basically an expert. So I highly recommend you look at his things. But I just want you guys to know too, we're not out of the woods. You know, they're planning. They're not done. And if you notice how quiet it is, it's quiet for a reason. They want it to feel like we're gonna go just make that transition, and then all of a sudden they're gonna pull the rug out. But that's the gist of what happened. They wanted to certify the election was the number one priority, and then the other thing was they wanted to prevent Trump from running because they knew he had tremendous support, and then now he has even more support. People who would have never thought about supporting him support him now. They woke up, and you know that, and they're basically behind the 8 ball. They have too much to lose. So just thought I'd let you guys know about that. All right.